So here I am. It's been a while since I made a video like this, a live action video. So let me start off. Okay, let me start off by saying I think a lot of stuff that should be. I think a lot of stuff that's illegal should be legal. I think drugs should be legal. I think prostitution should be illegal. I mean, damn it, I'm sorry. I'm already screwing up. I think drugs should be legal. I think prostitution, consenting adults should be legal. And, consenting people, period. Consenting adults. Because only adults can consent, just whatever. And along with that and many other things, I think guns should be legal. Okay, 3 things. At least. So, anyways, while I think these things should be legal, I'm not going to make bad arguments for legalizing them. Because that doesn't bring them any closer to being legal. Not to mention, bad arguments are, they're logical fallacies. They don't really teach anything. They don't make sense. They're not functional. So I'm not going to use a bad argument for legalizing anything, no matter how much it should be legalized. However, other people will try to use these bad arguments. And here's some bad arguments for legalizing. Let's start with prostitution. Some people say to legalize it, they say this. They say porn is just prostitution with a camera, when no, it's not. You see, prostitution is inherently paid. Porn isn't. I already made a video kind of going over this with a debunking of a Family Guy clip that's used in argument, but anyway, it's in the description. But anyways, porn isn't inherently paid. There's this thing called, amateur porn, which is just a couple doing the deed on camera. Okay? That's not inherently paid. So you can't just say porn is just prostitution on camera if it's not even inherently paid. Number 2, this is basically just a false equivalency. To be honest, I mean, yeah, they're both forms of sex work, and I believe sex work should be legal, consent and all that jazz. But I'm not just going to say, since one's legal and one isn't, it should just be legal because the other one is. That doesn't make any sense. I think it should be legal on the basis that consenting adults have a right to do what they want with each other, even if it involves some cash. That's a good argument to use for legalizing prostitution, not erroneously comparing it or equivalizing it to porn. And not to mention they have different business models than that. Porn is sex between, actors or participants. Prostitution, sex between prostitute and a client. That's different. So, yeah, there's that bad argument. Let's get into another bad argument for legalizing stuff. Weed isn't a drug; it's a plant. This doesn't make any sense because it is a drug. You smoke it, you get high. Bam, drug. But some people like to use this argument to try and convince people or the legislature or whatever that since it's not a drug, it should be legal because it's not a drug. But it is a drug because you smoke and get high, and it's a plant. It's both. A plant you get high off, a plant that's a drug. This is why this argument's utterly stupid. Now, if you want to get weed or any drug legalized for that matter, I suggest to use this argument instead. I suggest you say that, adults, people have a right to put what they want to their body. And that it doesn't matter if it's natural or not, or safe or not, it's their body. They get to put what they want into it. In a way, who cares if pot is safe or is a natural drug or a plant or whatever? It's your body. That's what I care about. That's what should be cared about. And yeah, the violent drug war costs a lot. Police state, yeah, all that. But, first and foremost, it's your body. So that's why you should be able to put what you want into it. Not because it's safe, not because it's natural, not because it's a plant, because it's your body, as I keep saying. Here's an interesting argument, a bad argument for legalizing guns, and it's actually misattributed to psychologist Sigmund Freud. It says not liking guns or being so against guns is a sign of sexual immaturity. Well, okay, this is misattributed to him. He didn't really say that. Just thought I'd get that off the bat. And number two, it's a dumb argument because that's not what guns are really about. It's got nothing to do with sexual maturity. That's like a total red herring or something. It's just about, being against guns is like, being against self-defense or being able to fight against government tyranny or just being against an object. That's what being anti-gun is about, or not realizing that leads to more crime, having anti-gun policies, or the criminals don't follow the laws. Criminals can't be held accountable for breaking the laws efficiently. Like, how many times have a criminal who's been violent, been pulled over, and it turns out he had a weapon he wasn't supposed to have. He's prohibited. He's a convicted felon. He's not supposed to own those, and yet he owned them and used them. How's that working for gun control? So a better argument for gun control being bad, as you probably already figured out, is that it doesn't stop crimes against the Second Amendment. It's elitism for the state, that kind of jazz. So the point is, you need to be very careful when arguing for the legalization or something, or the illegalization or something, because if you just make bad arguments, that's not going to really give any reason to legalize something, or illegalize something legitimately. Like, why should I legalize pot just because it's a plant, not a drug? What bearing does that have on anyone's right to their body on using that substance or any substance? What bearing does it just being natural? What does that tell me? It doesn't tell me anything. It's just like, it doesn't even make sense. Like, you smoke it, you get high. It's a drug. That's a plant. That's like saying, what is that like saying? That's like saying a car isn't a machine. It's a tool you use to get from here to there. Like, okay, then that makes it a machine then. That gets you from here to there. Or a house isn't a building, it's a domicile which you live in. Okay, well, it's still a building then because it's a structure you inhabit, so... You see where I'm going with this? And also, porn is just prostitution with a... Of course, as I kind of already explained, well, that doesn't make any sense because they're two totally different business models. They're both sex work, but they're two totally different business models, and porn isn't even always paid, so there goes that argument. So, I want people to start making, they not only have the right positions on issues, objective issues, I also want people to make good arguments for these issues. I don't want people to say prostitution just porn to camera for legalizing that. I don't want people to say weed isn't a drug, it's a plant for legalizing that. And I don't want to hear people say not liking guns is a sign of sexual immaturity for legalizing guns. Or getting rid of the restrictions that are already on them. I don't want to hear people using those arguments, because those arguments don't make any sense, they don't work, they're stupid, they don't teach you anything, they're logical fallacies, I want people to be smart about this shit, okay? Because you need to be smart in order to defeat, statism or social issues or whatnot. You can't be stupid, otherwise nothing gets done. So, I'm gonna try, for, I don't know, maybe a couple more seconds, try to think of any other dumb arguments for legalizing stuff, and if I can't come up with anything, I'll just end the video. Okay, so anyways... Oh, well, here's a good one. I heard people should legalize drugs so the government can get tax revenue. We can pay for schools and, roads, yay. But the problem with that is taxation is theft, okay? It's theft. When the government takes your money by force, it doesn't matter one iota if they spend it on stuff or not, or just line their pockets. It matters that they're taking your money away. It's not about legalizing stuff so it can get taxed. It's legalizing stuff because you have a right to be able to partake into it. Some people use the same argument for prostitution. You can tax it. Like, That's stupid. I don't want my stuff taxed. I want it to be legal, sure, but I don't want it taxed. Taxation's stupid. It's theft, it's robbery, it's extortion, it's slavery, it's whatever it is to be called. It's not right. So please, please do not use taxation as an argument for legalizing stuff. It doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. Yes, I suppose they diddly-do could get tax revenue off of this stuff, but that doesn't make it right. Plus, you can fund roads and schools voluntarily anyways, so why would you have things get taxed to be able to do that if you can just fund it voluntarily the way it should be funded? Sorry if I'm getting all worked up for it. I tend to do that with my videos, but I guess that's kind of who I am with the whole, we gotta fight for a good fight and stuff. Anyways, so, what else? Let me think. Okay, maybe just one more. Needle exchange clinics. I heard people, where drug users get clean needles and new drugs and clean drug kits to be able to do drugs. I heard those should be legal. Okay, this is kind of mixed. It's not exactly that. Well, I mean, they should be legal, but they shouldn't be taxpayer funded because, once again, taxation's theft. And I guess maybe I'm kind of making it different, but the point is, obviously, you should end the war on drugs ultimately, rather than just, oh, they have clean needles. It's about ending the war on drugs, not just mere harm reduction, which is basically what needle exchange programs should be for. So, okay, maybe that doesn't quite fit my topic of my video, but I thought I'd bring it up anyway. So, yeah, that's basically my spiel against bad arguments for good things or bad arguments for legalizing things that should be legal. I just want to put that out there because, if you're making bad arguments, you're going to have, bad results. I guess. I don't know. Remember, first and foremost, it's about freedom. Not about, safety or tax revenue or sexual maturity, or even, it's about freedom. That's what the big whole freedom, fight the good fight movement is about, with anarcho-capitalism, just liberating people in general. It's about freedom. I mean, yeah, there's a pragmatic aspect to it that you should fight for as well, but overall, principles are all about freedom. So, that being said, I say this video is, over. See you later. Okay, that's a bit embarrassing. See you later.